All right, so today we're diving into a really powerful idea, a philosophy that's honestly designed for the crazy, hyper-connected world we all live in, digital minimalism. It's all about how to take back control from our devices and start choosing a more focused, more intentional life. Let's get right into it.
Way back, over a century and a half ago, the philosopher Henry David Thoreau wrote this line that just sticks with you. He said, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." He was looking around and seeing people who felt, well, trapped. Trapped in these routines that didn't feel like their own, filled with this low-grade hum of unease. Sound familiar?
And that really brings up a huge question for us right now. What if that modern version of quiet desperation, that constant background anxiety we all feel, what if it isn't just a part of life? What if the main source is actually that little glowing rectangle we carry with us absolutely everywhere? So, how in the world did we get here? Well, as we're about to see, our relationship with technology isn't an accident. Not at all. It was engineered. It's kind of wild when you look back at how innocent this all started. 2004, Facebook was just this little novelty, basically a virtual yearbook for college kids. Then in 2007, Steve Jobs literally said the iPhone's killer app is making calls. No app store, no notifications, nothing. But today, well, as whistleblower Tristan Harris famously put it, your phone has become a slot machine in your pocket, and it's been perfectly engineered to keep you pulling that lever over and over again. And some people are not pulling any punches with their analogies. Comedian Bill Maher put it bluntly. He called today's tech giants tobacco farmers in t-shirts, saying they're knowingly selling an addictive product, even to kids. The engine driving this whole machine, it's what's known as the attention economy. The business model is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. In this model, you are not the customer. Your attention is the product, and it's being sold to the highest bidder. So the more of your life they can capture, the more money they make. It's that simple. Okay, so how exactly do they do it? Well, there's a whole playbook of persuasive tech tricks. They use something called intermittent variable rewards. That's a fancy term for the exact same principle that makes slot machines so addictive. You never know when you're going to get a like or a retweet, so you just keep checking. They're literally tapping into our ancient, hardwired need for social approval, giving us these tiny little dopamine hits that keep us coming back for more. Even something as small as changing the notification badges from a calm blue to an urgent, alarming red was a calculated move designed to make you click. And if you think this is all just some happy accident, listen to this. Sean Parker, who was Facebook's very first president, he came right out and admitted it. The goal from day one was, and I quote, "How do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible?" See? Addiction isn't a bug, it's the feature. Okay, wow. That is the problem, and yeah, it's a little bleak. But here's the good news. There is an antidote. There's a philosophy that can put you right back in the driver's seat. And for the answer, we can actually circle right back to our friend Thoreau. He came up with this idea he called a new economics. The concept is so simple but so profound. He said, forget the price tag. The true cost of anything is how much of your life, your time, your focus, your energy, you have to trade for it. Now, when you start applying this life cost to our digital tools, the trade-offs become crystal clear. That free 5 minutes checking social media, it actually costs you hours of fractured, broken attention. That constant stream of breaking news, it costs you your peace of mind, putting you in a state of low-grade anxiety. And trying to maintain hundreds of superficial online connections, that costs you the time and energy you need to build deep, meaningful friendships in the real world. And this right here is the heart and soul of digital minimalism. It is not about hating technology or becoming a Luddite. It's about being intensely intentional. It's about choosing your tools carefully, making sure they actually serve the things you truly value, and then, happily, joyfully, missing out on all the rest of the noise. So what happens when you start living this way? What do you actually fill all that reclaimed time and attention with? Well, it comes down to two absolutely crucial things: solitude and high-quality leisure. Now, it's super important we get this definition of solitude right. This is not about being physically alone. It's about a mental state. It's about being free from the input of other minds. That means no podcasts, no social media, no news feeds. It's just you and your own thoughts for a change. And this state is incredibly powerful. Just think about this. During the crushing pressure of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln would regularly escape to a quiet cottage away from the White House. He went there to find this exact kind of solitude. And it was in that state, free from the constant demands and opinions of others, that he was able to do some of his deepest, most important thinking, including drafting the Emancipation Proclamation.
Okay, so the other half of this equation is reclaiming leisure. But, and this is a big but, not all leisure is created equal. There's a huge divide between what we can call low-quality leisure, like passively binge-watching a show or endless scrolling, and high-quality leisure, which involves active creation or effort. One drains you, the other one fills you up. And this isn't just some abstract theory. Real people are doing this. There's a creative director named Dave who started drawing a picture for his daughter's lunchbox every single night. The blogger, Mr. Money Mustache, finds genuine joy in hands-on projects like carpentry and welding. Or take Liz Thames, who left the city for a homestead and found incredible value in demanding physical work. They all traded passive distraction for active creation. So this all sounds amazing, right? But how do you actually make the shift? It all starts with one concrete, actionable process.
It's called the digital declutter. The best way to think about it is like a 30-day experiment. It's a reset button that gives you the space to figure out which technologies are truly serving you and which ones aren't. The process itself is surprisingly simple. It's just 3 steps. Step 1, you take a 30-day break from all the optional tech in your personal life. Step 2, you use that time to actively rediscover satisfying, meaningful offline activities. And then, step 3, at the end of the month, you very carefully, very intentionally reintroduce only the tech that truly supports the things you value. And this is the absolute key to the whole thing. This is not just an exercise in deprivation. You're not just taking stuff away. It's an act of construction. You're not just clearing out the clutter. You are building the foundation for a more focused, more meaningful life, completely on your own terms. And so, that really leaves us with one final essential question, one for you to really think about. If you could reclaim all those hours lost to distraction, if you could get back that ability for deep thought and focused attention, what would you build? What would you do with a focused life?